السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We are still talking about Adam alayhi salam, and the last time we talked about him being taught the names of all the things, and we said that it's very important to learn. Knowledge is very important. It gives you power. It teaches you how to solve your problems and how to get what you want. And actually this is one of the reasons why the first verses that were revealed in the Quran were commanding us to learn. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. Read in the name of your Lord who created. So even when you learn something not associated to Islam, but if your main aim is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to oblige to His command, He will bless you in whatever you do. And actually every aspect of life is associated with Islam. There is no way we can disconnect ourselves from Islam. So everything that we do, the intention should be to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we said, if you know more than one language, it's to your advantage. And also we said, if for example you are deployed or you are sent to a foreign country, if you want to be effective in dealing with those people, you have to learn about their culture. So all in all, if you stick to learning everything that is beneficial to you, there is all for you to gain. So we said some scholars had different opinions about the names that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught Adam. Some of them said it was the names of the angels. Some of them said the names of his offspring. But Ibn Abbas and others are of the opinion that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught Adam the names of everything, each and everything that existed, small or big. Not only that, Allah taught him the functions of those things. So this is a tree, what does it do? This is a lake, what does it do? And actually this makes sense, because as we said before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created mankind, He created for us. He says in Surah Al-Baqarah chapter 2 verse 29, هو الذي خلق لكم ما في الأرض جميعا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who created for you everything on earth. So if He is the one who created for us everything on the earth, then He taught us the names of the things so that we can easily communicate with one another. We can easily learn about those things when we know the names. And we said, if something doesn't exist, you don't know its name. You only know its name after it exists. So because they existed first, all the things, then we were created after that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught us the names, and this is when the process of knowledge began, learning the names and learning the functions of those things and seeing how we can benefit from them. So underscoring this point, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught Adam the names of everything and challenged the angels, because as we said, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was about to create Adam, He told the angels that I'm about to create a human successor on the earth. So they were concerned, not because they didn't trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but because according to their experience, there had been some jinn living on the earth. They had shed blood and spread evil. So they had the impression that this new creature who would be created on earth will also do the same. So they were concerned. So they asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do you want to create someone who would shed blood and spread evil? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them, I know what you don't know. So after they knew that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had already decided to create the new creature, they said amongst themselves that let Allah create whomsoever He wants to create. We will still be more knowledgeable than that creature. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught Adam the names of everything and challenged the angels. He said, tell me those names if you are really truthful. Truthful in what? When they said that let Allah create any creature whom He wants, we will still be more knowledgeable. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught Adam the names which the angels didn't know. So He challenged the angels, said, tell me the names. They didn't know. They said, Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma alamtana. Glory be to you, we don't have any knowledge except what you taught us. So they were acknowledging that their source of knowledge was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So since Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not teach them the names of everything, then they wouldn't know. And this was a lesson to us. Don't think that you are better than someone else. And we gave this briefly. We talked about Musa alayhi salam when he thought he was the most knowledgeable person, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala proved him wrong. So you don't be proud of what you are, of what you know. If you are proud, maybe someone over there is better than you in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the standards of Allah are different from our standards. So in a hadith that was narrated by Anas bin Malik قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يجمع المؤمنون يوم القيامة فيقولون لو استشفعنا إلى ربنا فيريحنا من مكاننا هذا فيأتون آدم فيقولون له أنت آدم أبو البشر خلقك الله بيدك وأسجد لك الملائكة وعلمك أسماء كل شيء فاشفع لنا إلى ربنا حتى يريحنا فيقول لهم لست هناكم فيذكر لهم خطيئته التي أصاب. So Anas bin Malik narrates that the Prophet ﷺ told his companions, he says, as the believers will be assembled on the day of judgment, they will say, let us look for someone who will intercede with our Lord on our behalf to relieve us from this distress. Because when they will see the horrors of the day of judgment, the major signs unfold, it will be terrible. So people will admire even to be judged, even if it entailed for them to go to the hellfire. So they will be in distress. They will be fearful. They will be afraid. They don't know what the destiny will be. So finally they will say, let's go and look for someone who will at least go and intercede on our behalf in front of our Lord, to tell Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to expedite the process of judgment. So they will go to Adam and they will tell him, you are the progenitor of mankind. You are the first human being. You are our father, the first man to begin the process of procreation. So they will start enumerating his specialties. So they will tell him, you are the progenitor of mankind. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you with His own hands. He ordered the angels to prostrate before you and taught you the names of all things. So please intercede for us with our Lord so that He may ease off our situation. Adam will reply, I am not suitable for that. And he will mention to them the mistake which he committed. So he would be feeling shy to go in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of the mistake that he had committed. So Adam will suggest to them to go to Nuh. He will say, go to Nuh, the first messenger. Probably he will be in better position than me to mediate between you and your Lord. So Nuh also will give his own excuses. They will go to Ibrahim, they will go to Musa, they will go to Isa. Finally, they will go to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who will accept that challenge. He will accept to go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and intercede on behalf of the believers to be judged. Now, a question here. We have Nuh, Ibrahim, Musa, Isa and Muhammad. How do we call them? These 5 prophets and messengers, they have a special name. Yes, Mahmoud? Ulul Azm. So prophets and messengers of high resolve. They went through a lot of challenges, a lot of tribulations, but their faith did not shake. They went through a lot of problems, a lot of tribulations, a lot of challenges, but they stayed focused on their mission, and finally they were successful. So this is a lesson to us, that if you are a believer, you will go through a lot of challenges, you will go through a lot of problems, but finally you will emerge victorious. They were full of faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Adam will refer the people to Nuh. Nuh also will refer them to Ibrahim. Ibrahim will refer them to Musa. Musa will refer them to Isa. Isa will refer them to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And finally the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam will accept to go and intercede on behalf of the believers, so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may expedite the process of judgment, judging them, so whether they go to paradise or whether they will be punished for some time. Now, Adam alayhi salam, the progenitor of mankind, does not accept to go and intercede on behalf of mankind. And he gives his reasons why he did that. So what do we learn from this? Adam alayhi salam says, I cannot do it because I did mistakes. I am afraid of my Lord. I feel shy myself. Although I am a prophet, I am a messenger. This day is a very dangerous day. This day is a very big day. So I myself, I am concerned about my destiny. And then he refers them to someone else. What do we learn from this? So first of all, we learn from this that you have to acknowledge your mistake. So Adam alayhi salam acknowledged his mistake and he was forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He repented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we will be talking about eating from the forbidden tree, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught him the words of repentance. Adam repented, as such he was forgiven. He doesn't have a sin at all. But because prophets and messengers love Allah a lot, they respect Allah a lot, so they feel, this is a very big day, this is a very auspicious day. How come I did some mistakes? How come do I come here and intercede on behalf of someone else? So acknowledging your mistakes is the first step of being forgiven. So if, for example, you've committed some sins, the first condition is to acknowledge that you committed the sin. Or, for example, if you wronged someone and you want this person to forgive you, you have to acknowledge. Don't say, they claim I did this. So this person will feel that you are not serious. So if you're really serious to apologize, or if you are really serious to repent, you have to acknowledge. And also it's a lesson to us that those prophets and messengers were holding each other in high regard. They were respecting one another. So Adam would have easily said, I can't, just find your way. But he referred them to Nuh. This is to show that he was respecting Nuh alayhi salam. He was trusting Nuh alayhi salam. They trusted one another. They respected one another. Not like some human beings. If he doesn't solve the problem, he knows that there is someone else who can solve it, but because of jealousy, he doesn't refer the people to him, because he knows when they go to that person and he solves the problem, the credit will go to him. So he doesn't want to get the credit. At the same time, he doesn't want the other to get it. So he just wants everyone to lose because they are jealous. So this is a very big lesson that we learn from prophets and messengers. They respected one another. They held one another in high esteem. So we should be like them. Even if you are competing with one another for one position, you still have to respect one another. You still have to acknowledge the capabilities of one another. For example, friends who are always with one another, if you praise one of them and you didn't praise the other one, instead of this person being happy that my friend has been praised, he would be angry and jealous. Yeah, you're praising him, you don't know what he does. He did this, he did it. And this is a friend. For example, two brothers, you praise one of them, you didn't praise the other one. He would say, you don't know what he does. So the prophets and messengers, they are teaching us to be positive, to hold one another in high regard, to respect one another. And also they were justifying their inability to intercede on behalf of human beings. They gave reasons. So this is a lesson to us. If someone comes to you, he seeks your help, he wants you to help him solve the problem. If you can't, give him the reasons why. But don't just tell him, I can't. Because he will have the impression that maybe you were able to help, but you didn't like. Or maybe you are arrogant. Maybe you don't care about him. So at least, even if you can't do it, show that you care to refer him to someone else. And this, if you refer him to someone else, he will appreciate that. In other words, if someone comes to you to seek help, you can't help, try at least to give him advice. Try at least to refer him to someone else. Or give him hope that, I can't help now, but maybe after 2 or 3 days I can help. And if I can't, I will find someone else to help you. And actually, if you remember in a hadith, one of the ahadith that we quoted last week, we said, the Prophet ﷺ said, walking with my brother in order to help him solve his problem is more beloved to me than performing i'tikaf in my masjid for 1 month. Even if the problem is small, just walking, taking time to walk with your brother, giving your brother a ride, helping him in one way or the other, it's better to Allah than performing i'tikaf in the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ. If you pray one prayer in the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ, how many rewards do you get? 1,000. So one prayer you get 1,000. So if you perform i'tikaf for 1 month, how many times are you going to pray? So multiply that. How many rewards do you get? But the Prophet ﷺ said, helping your brother solve his problem is better for you than that. So if you don't have access to perform Umrah, if you are not able to perform Hajj, there are some things that you can do to get the same reward of the person who is praying in Al-Masjid al-Nabawi. So the prophets are showing us here that they will not neglect the people who come to them for help. Although it will be distressful even for them, they will still refer them to someone else. And also, it is a lesson to us that even prophets and messengers are taking, or were taking, the day of judgment seriously. So they will not take it lightly that, I'm a prophet, I'm a messenger, everything is going to be easy. No, although they know that they had been forgiven, still they will be concerned, because this is to show that they really respect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are really al-muttaqin, they fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They came to practice what they preached. So this is a lesson to us. If this is a prophet, this is a messenger, he's afraid about the day of judgment. What about me and you? He's afraid to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What about me and you? And we said on the day of judgment, everyone will stand alone before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No translator for you, no interpreter for you, no anyone to intercede for you. What will help you will be your good words. So the Prophet ﷺ ends the hadith with a quote. What did he say? فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَلَوْ بِشَقِّ تَمْرَةٍ. So be afraid of Allah, even if it entails to give in charity part of a date. This is the one that will help you on the day of judgment. Also, if you can't refer someone to the person who can help and explain, if you can't refer someone, for example, if you can't help someone, refer him to someone else. If you don't know that someone else to refer him to him, at least pray for him. Pray for this person. That I can't help you. I don't know anyone who can help you. I will try to find someone who will help you. If I can't, I will pray for you. So give him hope, even if it's just by good words. We said another hadith, we quoted another hadith that says, وَالْكَلِمَةُ الطَّيِّبَةُ صَدَقَةٌ. A good word is regarded as charity. So if you give someone a word of hope, it's charity. And also, it will be a sign of them showing sympathy and empathy. Yes, people go to Adam. He's unable to meet with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but he will be sympathetic with the people. Nuh alayhi salam will be sympathetic with the Ibrahim. So Adam, for example, won't say, you people, you did not pray for me. You were always concentrating on Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Why do you come to me? Go to him. They will not say that. Unfortunately, some people, for example, in this world today, if you were not dealing with them, you were neglected them, you need something from them, they would say, now you remember me? You used to go to so and so, let him help you. But the prophets won't do that, because they're teaching us a lesson that if someone comes to you, you are helping him for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are not expecting appreciation from that person. You're not expecting rewards from that person. You are doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this shows their extreme love and fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this will show you that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam really loves his followers. This is one of the reasons that when we mention his name, we say sallallahu alayhi wasallam, because he will go there and intercede on our behalf. He will be the only one among all the prophets who will take up this mantle, the responsibility of interceding on our behalf. Now, before I go to the second slide, sometimes people say, I have been praying to Allah, but Allah has not answered my prayer. I'm in a critical situation, but I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. How should we answer? How should we reply to these people?
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has that time.
Yeah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has time. So you have to be patient. What else?
Maybe that's the sign.
Beg your pardon?
Maybe that's the sign.
Okay, the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is infinite. It doesn't have limits. So when you reach a dead end, you've tried your best to solve your problems. You've tried your best to achieve what you want, yet you can't achieve it, then you resign to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Musa alayhi salam, when he was running away, when he was escaping from the children of Israel, when they were escaping from Pharaoh, they reached the Red Sea. So one of them said, inna lamudrakun, they are going to catch us. There is no ship, no boat, nothing to cross the Red Sea. So behind them, Pharaoh is there with his army, pursuing them. In front of them is the Red Sea. So Musa confidently, he said, Inna ma'i Rabbi sayahdin. Indeed, I have my Lord, he will guide me. So he didn't know how the guidance will come. He didn't know how Allah will save him, but he had trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And actually, there was a dialogue between a grandmother and her grandson. The grandson said, I've been praying for a long time to get what I want, but until now, I have never seen anything. So the grandmother told him, if you go to a doctor, you're suffering from any disease, you explain your condition to the doctor, and then the doctor writes for you a prescription. Do you question the prescription of the doctor? Do you argue with him, with the doctor? 1. 2, does the doctor give you the medicine that you want, or he gives you the medicine that according to his knowledge and his experience, he knows this is the medicine that will be effective in helping you to be cured? So the doctor gives you the most effective medicine. He does not necessarily give you the medicine that you want. So you cannot dictate in front of the doctor that, I want this particular medicine. You can't, because he knows what he's doing. So this applies with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You want something, but He wants to give you something better. And if He delays, there is a reason as to why He delays. So we learn this all from the prophets and messengers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now orders the angels to prostrate for Adam as a sign of respect. And this is a lesson to us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for so many reasons, He ordered the angels to prostrate for Adam as a sign of respect. One of them was knowledge. So if you have knowledge, it doesn't matter where you come from, if your knowledge is sincere, and actually it's not only about acquiring knowledge. You have knowledge, then you have to implement it. So people have to see the effect of the knowledge on you. So don't just brag about your knowledge when you say something and you do something else. People will regard you as a laughing stock. So you'll know that this knowledge that you have, implement it. And while implementing it, be sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't implement it because you want to show off. And there is what they call discipline. Now when I talk about discipline, this means when you commit yourself to doing something, do it regularly. Don't commit yourself to do something today and tomorrow you neglect it. So there should be discipline in everything that you commit yourself to do. So the Prophet ﷺ says, Al-qalilu da'im khayrun min al-kathir al-munqati'. So little acts of worship or little services that are consistent are better and more meritorious than big commitments, big acts that you do once and then you stop. So discipline is very important. When you commit yourself to do something beneficial to you, continue doing that. And then wisdom, to know what to say, when to say it, in what circumstances you say it, and to be humble. So if you put all this into consideration, your knowledge will have value. But if you want to be knowledgeable just to brag about your knowledge, to show off without implementing it, without being a good role model, without showing people how this knowledge is having effect on you, it won't help you. So when it was time to breathe the soul into Adam, Allah told the angels, after breathing the soul in him, you should prostrate before him. So after the soul has entered into Adam, now he's talking, he's walking, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, after that you have to prostrate for him, or prostrate to him. Now we said before that some narrations of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they might repeat some things which you've already explained, but coming up with a new idea. So what we already know, we just confirm it. It's just to corroborate it in our mind, and then we focus on something new that we're learning from this hadith. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had breathed the soul into him, into Adam, the soul passed through his head. Adam sneezed. We talked about that last week. The angel said, say Alhamdulillah, praise be to Allah, oh I thank Allah. So he said Alhamdulillah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said afterwards, Rahimakallah, Rahimaka Rabbuk. So may your Lord, may your Lord have mercy upon you. Or actually, your Lord is already having mercy upon you, because Allah is talking about himself. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is confirming to Adam that my mercy is upon you. Don't worry. You're the progenitor of mankind. I created you with my own hands. Now and we talked about the benefits of sneezing. So when you sneeze, as we said before, you have to say Alhamdulillah, and those listening to you, they say Yarhamukallah. When the soul reached his eyes, he saw the fruits of paradise. And when it entered into his stomach, he desired food. So when the soul came into his stomach, this is when he desired food. He then jumped up in haste for the fruits of paradise before the soul even entered into his legs. So the soul is now in the stomach. He sees food around him, different types of fruits. lush vegetation, and then he jumps in haste. Yet he can't move because the soul has not yet reached down to his legs. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ مِنْ عَجَلٍ سَأُرِيكُمْ آيَاتِي فَلَا تَسْتَعْجِلُونَ. Man was created with the attribute of being in haste. Soon will I show you my signs of judgment fulfilled against the disbelievers, so do not call for me to hasten this. Now this is general. So a person, a human being, wants to be successful quickly. He wants to be rich quickly. He always wants shortcuts. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you, take your time. If you are convinced that the steps you're doing are right and are within the parameters of the teachings of Islam, then you have to follow the steps. Don't be hasty. You have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help you. So this is one of the aspects of the things that we were born with, to be in haste, but we can control it. As I said before, in life there is no shortcut. You might take some shortcuts today, but you'll pay the price tomorrow. Just as one example among many. If, for example, someone says, I am rich, I have everything, I will not work, I will be sleeping 24 hours, he will pay the price after. He's lazy, he doesn't want to walk, he doesn't want to work. Time will come when he will suffer from multiple diseases. He will be obliged to go and see doctors multiple times, something that he didn't want at the beginning. So in life there is no shortcut. You have to struggle, and the more you struggle, the more you are blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the more your body becomes active, the more your mind becomes active. So it's good for you to struggle, it's good for you to work, it's good for you to walk, it's good for you to toil. And if you do that, keeping in mind that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you, being sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, every effort that you render, you are rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells you that whatever you feed yourself with is charity. So you work so hard, you buy food, you eat the food that you bought by your own money, Allah records for you a charity. So you get rewards by working and feeding yourself. You feed your children, your wife, whatever you do. So the most important thing is to put Allah first. I am doing it obliging to the command of Allah, because Allah created me to work on this earth, to develop my living conditions on earth. And after that, you can look for your own vested interests. So this hadith about the creation of Adam, when the soul reached his head, he sneezed. When it reached his stomach, he desired food. When it reached his legs, he was hasty. According to scholars who are experts in a hadith, in the authenticity of a hadith of the sayings of the Prophet ﷺ, some of them, they say that parts of this hadith are among Israeliyat. Israeliyat are some of the stories that were narrated by the Jews and Christians from their books, from the Torah and from the Gospel. And actually, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told us this about Israeliyat, stories of the Christians and the Jews. He says, عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال كان أهل الكتاب يقرؤون التوراة بالعبرانية ويفسرونها بالعربية. So the people of the book, Jews and Christians, were reading the Torah in Hebrew, and they would explain it and interpret it in Arabic to the Muslims. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تصدقوا أهل الكتاب ولا تكذبوهم. So don't accept what they say as true and don't belie it. So whatever you hear, what they say, that these are among the teachings of the Torah, these are among the teachings of the Bible, of the Gospel, so don't believe them completely as true and don't deny them as false. وَلَكِنْ قُولُوا آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ وَمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْنَا. So we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in that which has been revealed to us. This hadith was reported by Imam al-Bukhari, and it's classified as authentic Sahih, hadith number 7362. Do you know why? So the Prophet says, those stories of the Christians from the Torah and from the Gospel, when they share such stories with you, don't completely accept them as true and don't completely deny them as false, but say we believe in everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed. Why is it?
So these are Israeliyat?
Yeah, some parts of the hadith are the hadith that they quoted, some parts of which are Israeliyat, stories of the Christians and the Jews that they used to share with the Muslims from their books, from the Torah and from the Gospel. So the Prophet says, such stories, don't believe in them completely and don't deny them completely, but just say, I believe in what Allah revealed. Yes, Tony?
It's because we just don't know. Like, it could be true, it could
Yes, because according to the articles of faith, we believe in the divine scriptures that were revealed to prophets and messengers. The Torah of Moses, the Gospel of Jesus, the Psalms of David, and the parchments of Abraham, plus the Quran. Now, we are not sure whether what we have now has been kept safe among those books, because we know that they have been corrupted. So we don't know what's right and what's wrong. And actually, if you read some parts of those books, you feel that these books are in conformity with the teachings of Islam. So it might be true, it might be wrong, because along the line, maybe someone tampered with the verses, he changed them, and maybe some of them were not changed. So don't say they are wrong or they're right, just say we believe in whatever Allah reveals. So you are on the safe side. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, until now, even in the Bible, even in the Torah, there are some verses which are true, but we don't know exactly if they conform with the teachings of Islam, then we say it's true. If they go averse from the teachings of Islam, then we say they are not true. So the Prophet ﷺ tells us, don't believe as true and don't deny them. If you find something that corroborates what they say in the Quran and in the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ, so you believe in it completely. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us now about how Iblis was disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Iblis, Shaitan, the devil, Satan, because of his righteousness at the beginning, he was elevated to the rank of the angels. But hitherto from the beginning, he was jealous of Adam. And we will see how. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ اسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ فَسَجَدُوا إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ قَالَ أَأَسْجُدُ لِمَنْ خَلَقْتَ طِينًا قال أرأيتك هذا الذي كرمت عليه لئن أخرتني إلى يوم القيامة لأحتنكن ذريته إلا قليلا قال اذهب فمن تبعك منهم فإن جهنم جزاؤهم جزاء موفورا. And at the end he says, إن عبادي ليس لك عليهم سلطان وكفى بربك وكيلا. Translated as, and behold, when we said to the angels, prostrate to Adam, and they prostrated except Iblis, he said, should I prostrate to one whom you created from clay? He, Iblis, said, do you see this one whom you've honored above me? If you delay me until the day of judgment, I will surely destroy his descendants, except a few of them. Allah said, go, for whoever of them follows you, indeed, hell will be your recompense, an ample recompense. Indeed, over my believing servants, there is not for you any authority, and sufficient is your Lord as the sole disposer of affairs. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala confirmed to Iblis that my servants who are sincere to me, who worship me, you don't have any authority over them. But those who deny my teachings, who reject my injunctions, those are the ones who will follow you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is confirming to the prophets and to every believer that Allah is sufficient as your Lord. He is the disposer of the affairs. So if you believe in Him, you trust Him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect you from the temptations of the shaitan. Now, you know, when someone commits a sin, some people, they say, it's the devil. When they commit sins, it's the devil. I was tempted by the devil. Now, if every sinner, every criminal takes the devil as his scapegoat, so the devil, whom will he blame? So who will the shaitan blame? Because everyone says it's shaitan. So who influenced the shaitan to disobey Allah? 1. 2. Do you see him? Does he force you to disobey Allah? Does he convince you that, you know, if you do this, do you see him? So actually on the day of judgment, that shaitan whom you claim that is the one who is tempting you to commit sins, he will claim that, you know, I didn't force you, I didn't have any authority over you, it was just your wickedness. So the shaitan will disown you, will distance himself from you. Ma ana bimusrikhikum wa ma antum bimusrikhiyya. There is no way I can come to your rescue, and there is no way you can come to my rescue. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَقَالَ الشَّيْطَانُ لَمَّا قُضِيَ الْأَمْرُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَعَدَكُمْ وَعْدَ الْحَقِّ ووعدتكم فأخلفتكم وما كان لي عليكم من سلطان إلا أن دعوتكم فاستجبتم لي فلا تلوموني ولوموا أنفسكم ما أنا بمصرخكم وما أنتم بمصرخي إني كفرت بما أشركتموني من قبل إن الظالمين لهم عذاب أليم. So it says, thus Satan will say to the disbelievers, when the matter of Allah's judgment will have been decreed, indeed Allah promised you the truth. So Iblis, the devil, on the day of judgment, he's going to acknowledge that what Allah promised you was the truth. So people now, they follow the shaitan, they are tempted in different ways, they arrogantly disbelieve in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and even some groups have emerged who claim they worship the devil. So that the shaitan is going to tell you on the day of judgment, the promise of Allah was true. He's going to acknowledge, and I promised you but failed you. So he's going to be true, to acknowledge that he failed you. So imagine all the way you've been following someone, assuming this person will help you, this person will give you what you want, this person has been giving you a lot of promises. For example, someone wants to marry you against the will of your family, against the will of your community, and he said, don't worry, I will take you to my country, I'll give you this and that. Finally he tells you, what your family was saying was true, I was lying to you. So after making you hate everyone among your family members, after making you lose everything, and now he fails you, how do you feel? This is how people will feel on the day of judgment. Yet never did I have any authority over you, except that I called to you and you responded to me. So do not blame me. So the shaitan will be right. He will say, I didn't have any authority over you. And actually, not only the shaitan, even the mushrikeen, the disbelievers, people who encourage others to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, encourage others to oppose the prophets and messengers, those people will deny one another. Even they will be so audacious that they will claim they never committed anything wrong in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنْ افترى على الله كذبا أو كذب بآياته إنه لا يفلح الظالمين ويوم نحشرهم جميعا ثم نقول للذين أشركوا أين شركاؤكم الذين كنتم تزعمون ثم لم تكن فتنتهم إلا أن قالوا والله ربنا ما كنا مشركين انظر كيف كذبوا على أنفسهم وضل عنهم ما كانوا يفترون. So the translation is, and who is more unjust than one who invents about Allah false lies and denies the verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Indeed, the wrongdoers will not succeed. And remember, O Muhammad, the day we will gather them all together. Then we will say to those who associated partners with Allah, where are your partners that you associated with Allah, that used to claim they will help you? Then there will be no excuse upon them. So the disbelievers will not have any excuse. They will not see their partners. They will not see the deities that they used to worship besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they will claim, by Allah our Lord, we were not those who associated partners with you. So Allah is saying, see how they will lie about themselves, and lost from them will be what they used to invent. So those people who committed sins, those who used to encourage others to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will have the audacity to claim that they did not disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yet they will see each and everything. This is to know how human beings are. So for example, as we always say, someone is caught red-handed stealing from a bank or stealing from a supermarket. There are CCTV cameras, and that person will say, they're claiming I stole. I didn't steal. Yet he sees evidence in front of him. So not only do they do that with human beings, they will do it even with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine the nature of human beings. And actually, this is a lesson to us. What do we learn from this? What do we learn from this? A criminal will never acknowledge his crime on this earth and in the hereafter. So what do we learn? There is a lesson that we learn here. If you are dealing with people whom you do not trust, always have facts with you. If someone, for example, you know that this person does not honor his word, or for example, if you have a boss who is fickle and finicky, and he comes to tell you something which is sensitive, and you know that time will come when he will reject, he will disclaim that statement, what do? You record. So you have to have facts that in case anything happens to you, you have something to substantiate your claim. Or for example, if you want to do in so many cases, I've had some people complain that sometimes my boss gives me an assignment. After giving me an assignment, he discovers that no, it's not the right assignment, and he doesn't tell me to stop doing it. So after completing the assignment, I'm happy coming to him, showing him my achievement, assuming that he will reward me, he will appreciate my work. What does he do? Who asked you to do it? I didn't tell you to do it. The very person who asked you to do this assignment, he claims he didn't. So if you don't have anything to corroborate, if any message, anything, then you are in trouble. And this is why sometimes in some companies they like to communicate with writing. So if you need anything, any order, just write it to me, email it to me. So you keep such messages with you to protect you if anything happens, because human beings are human beings, and these things do happen even in this world. Even someone who is superior to, he's the one who ordered you to do something, but when things become negative, when he's afraid maybe something bad is going to happen, he says, no, I didn't tell you. But if you have something to back up your claim, this will help you. This is the nature of human beings, whether the person is in position or isn't. So you have to have something that will always help you. You have to have something that will always back up your claims when something happens. We learn this from the verses of the Quran, that even the disbelievers, people like Abu Jahl, they will say, no, oh Allah, we didn't disobey you. Yet everyone knows, they used to announce it. So this is the nature of a human being. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الشيطان يعدكم الفقر ويأمركم بالفحشاء والله يعدكم مغفرة منه وفضلا والله واسع عليم. Satan threatens you with poverty and commands you to commit atrocities and to be obscene, while Allah promises much forgiveness for you and great bounty, and Allah is all encompassing, all knowing. So the shaitan does not like khair for you. And the shaitan comes in different ways. He will always hurl some insinuations to you. He will always tempt you to disobey Allah. For example, you want to give charity, the shaitan comes. Those people are liars. That's a scam. They're not doing what they claim. So you withhold the money. So the shaitan tells your income is not stable. Why do you give charity? And you forget that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one commanding you to give charity. And if you give it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you in different ways. So the shaitan is threatening you that you will be poor, yet he doesn't know that by giving you will even get more. So the shaitan is your enemy. So he comes in a disguise of a friend who is advising you, who is concerned about your well-being, your welfare, and he has a lot of avenues that he uses in order to tempt a human being. So if you're not careful, you can easily fall into the trap. Does anyone know why why I added these pictures? So this is a corn tree with spikes, and these are corns, or if you want, you can call them maize. Does anyone know why? Does anyone know why I brought them? Yes. Yes. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 261, مثل الذين ينفقون أموالهم في سبيل الله كمثل حبة أنبتت 7 سنابل في كل سنبلة 100 حبة والله يضاعف لمن يشاء والله واسع عليم. So the likeness of those who spend their wealth in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is as the likeness of a grain that sprouts 7 spikes. In every spike there are 100 grains. Thus does Allah multiply rewards for whomsoever He so wills, and Allah is all encompassing, all knowing. So the shaitan threatens you that if you give, your savings will dwindle, will decrease. But Allah is promising you that the more you give, the more you get. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us here a graphic picture. Imagine a farmer. You throw 1 grain into the soil. You don't know what chemical changes happen over there. After some time it will sprout. And this plant will sprout into 7 spikes. Each spike is having 100 grains and more. Actually, I don't know how many corns we can count in every spike, but there could be more than 100. So Sheikh Sha'rawi says, if this is what the earth is giving you, so you just planted, you didn't know, you were not sitting there to make some, to bring some manure, to bring some water every time. You don't know what's happening inside. But when it sprouts, it multiplies, and you get from 1 grain, you get 700 and more. And actually the Prophet ﷺ says, if you do 1 act of worship, you do it sincerely, you get rewards from 10 up to 700, even more than 700. So Sheikh Sha'rawi says, if this is what the earth is giving you, what about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of the earth, who makes it able to make these plants sprout? How many rewards is He going to give you? So the shaitan is just lying to you So even it might come sometimes that if you plant this grain, it will not grow up. So trying to give some false insinuations to you to divert you from the act of worshipping Allah. So you assume it's your friend, yet it's not. For example, some youth, they have friends, they play either football or cricket. So one of them would say, let's go and study, we have an exam. No, why studying? They discourage others. So do you think those are good friends? And actually, in so many occasions, the one who discourages the others the most, after they play, he would go home and study. And at the end of the term, we find that this person scored A+ in everything. The one who was encouraging others not to learn, but when they go to sleep, when they're sleeping, he's learning. So do you think this is your friend? So a friend should be the one who is always encouraging you to do good things. And it's very difficult to find a friend who encourages you good things. You'll find a friend who will encourage you to do what he wants. He wants company, he wants support. Not because of you, because of him. He will ask you, do this, because he wants company, not because he wants your welfare. So if you get a sincere friend, then you have to hold on to that person and cultivate the friendship. Therefore, it's clear that the blissful is the one who stays opposed to Satan, and the damned is the one who takes him as a guide and protector. So the shaitan comes in different forms, in different ways. So you have always to concentrate on what benefits you. The Prophet ﷺ tells us, احرص على ما ينفعك واستعن بالله. So always be keen to do things that benefit you and ask Allah to help you. So if something doesn't benefit you, don't engage in it. If some talk does not benefit you, don't engage in it. Don't associate with people who always gossip, who slander, who spread rumors. What do you benefit? Everything before you say it, ask yourself, what do I benefit? Everything before you do it, ask yourself, how do I benefit? If you benefit, go ahead. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again tells us, قَالَ يَا إِبْلِيسُ مَا لَكَ أَلَّا تَكُونَ مِنَ السَّاجِدِينَ قال لم أكن لأسجد لبشر خلقته من صلصال من حمأ مسنون قال فاخرج منها فإنك رجيم وإن عليك اللعنة إلى يوم الدين. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, O Iblis, what's the matter with you that you are not with those who prostrate for Adam? He said, never would I prostrate to a man, to a human being whom you created out of clay from an altar black mud. Allah said, then get out, for indeed you are expelled, and indeed upon you is the curse until the day of recompense. So Iblis knew that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was the Almighty, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was telling the truth, but out of ignorance, out of stupidity, he was stubborn with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is warning us and is warning everyone who would fall into the traps of the shaitan. Al-Hasan al-Basri says that Iblis was the first creature to compare himself with others. Thus he drew analogous conclusions, and that was the first time to do it. In other words, he was the first person to draw analogous conclusions. This means he was comparing himself to Adam. And actually we can't compare. Don't compare yourself with another person. You were born in different circumstances. You were born in a different country. You grew up in a different culture. You grew up with different parents. So everything is different. So it's unfair to compare yourself with another person. So someone, for example, grew up only with his mother. The other person grew up with the mother and father. The other person grew up in a poor family. So you can't compare yourself with another person. So what you do is to concentrate on yourself, strengthen your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, try to be the best, but don't compare yourself with others. This comparison began with the shaitan, and actually those who compare with others are falling into the many traps of the shaitan. So I'm better than so and so because he's short, I'm tall, because I'm this and that. You are actually doing the same thing that the shaitan did. So this person whom you look down upon that he's short, who created him? Allah. Did Allah show you a catalog before creating you that which color do you want, which height do you want, and then you chose? No. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of His infinite wisdom, He chose the color, the size, and the way the person would look. So it's very wrong to compare yourself with another person. And actually Tony is about to leave. There is something he wanted to read to us about the benefits of soil, because the devil shaitan, he looked down upon Adam because Adam was created from soil, and he says, I was created from fire, he was created from soil, and according to him fire was better than soil. Little did he know that soil is better than fire. And even for argument's sake, Allah, the creator of both, is the one telling you to prostrate to Adam. Yeah, so soil stores oxygen, which is very important. Tony, before you go also, we were going to talk about a hadith which says that a woman, especially Hawa, was created from a crooked rib. And this hadith has created a lot of controversy among the enemies of Islam. They've come up with a lot of misconceptions about Islam. And actually, if not today, next week, it's on the slides, but I don't know if time will permit us. We are going to talk about what exactly means. The Prophet ﷺ informed his companions about this more than 1,400 years ago, and we will see recent scientific discoveries. What do they say about this? So on his part, Muhammad bin Sirin said, Iblis was the first to draw analogous conclusions, and neither the sun nor the moon were worshipped, but as a result of analogous conclusions. So people would say, the sun is very vital in life, it gives us light, it makes our plants grow. As such, they would worship the sun, because they thought that this sun had supernatural powers. Those who worship the moon, they said, it guides us, it doesn't have anything supporting it. So they drew up their own conclusions, they analyzed the benefits of the sun and the moon, and they worshipped that. Little did they know that these are creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to worship the creator of the sun and the creator of the moon. So their analogous conclusion was very short of leading them to the creator of the sun and the moon. So it's very dangerous someone to draw up conclusions based on his experience if there is a text from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and a text from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what the above stated comments allude to is that from his false analogous conclusions, Iblis considered himself better than Adam. And many people do that because they think, I am fat, I'm better than him, he's thin. Who told you that being fat is better than being thin? So these wrong analogous conclusions might lead someone astray. So Iblis saw himself nobler, better than Adam, and he refused because of that to prostrate to Adam. Yet he knew that Allah was the creator of Adam, Allah was the creator of everything, and he was the one commanding him to prostrate to Adam. He didn't know that this was a divine command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if any analogy is preferred to textual evidences, then that analogy will not stand. So you have ayah, you have hadith, what the Prophet ﷺ said, what the companion said, and now you depend on your mind, on your conclusions. So if there is a verse, there is a saying of the Prophet, we oblige to the command of Allah, we oblige to the command of the Prophet ﷺ. We stop thinking. We think only when there is no verse, when there is no hadith, and when the bona fide companions of the Prophet ﷺ didn't comment anything on it. This is when there is room for us to think. Even when we think, we don't stick to our thoughts to say, my opinion is the best. If anyone proves to you that my opinion is better than yours because I heard the Prophet say so and so, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you yield to him. For example, Al-Imam al-Shafi'i, he used to say, إِذَا صَحَّ الْحَدِيثُ فَهُوَ مَذْهَبِي. So if there is any strong saying of the Prophet that contradicts my legal opinion, I will dump my legal opinion and go with the hadith. So all of them were striving to follow the truth. So Iblis, he knows the text says something else and he does something else intentionally. So even in the case, the analogy in itself was false, because soil is more beneficial and better than fire. As in the soil there are qualities of serenity, gentleness, perseverance and growth, while in fire there are qualities of frivolity. And actually, for those who are learning the English language, serenity means fineness, purity, clarity, calm. So the soil is calm, is clear, depending on where you are. It's fine. You can use it in different ways. So the soil has good qualities, yet the fire has among the qualities frivolity, which is lack of seriousness, being superficial, lack of wisdom, lack of sensibleness. So the fire just burns. So there is no sense in it. And also impatience. The fire is not patient, like the Iblis. So it has also the burning qualities in it. So even his analogy was wrong, because actually the fire isn't better than the soil. Now the analogy of so many people, when you think you are better than someone, when you go into details, you will find out that, oh, this person is better than you. How many times you look at someone, you underestimate him, but when you deal with him, you find that this person has qualities which are far superior than yours. So we don't compare and compete with others. If we want to compete, we compete in things that will draw us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the argument of Iblis was false, because soil is better and more beneficial than fire, due to the fact that the soil is characterized with gravity. So gravity means the force that attracts objects towards one another. So when you throw something up, it goes up because of the gravity. Also, it means extreme importance. Also, it means the property of being heavy. So the soil is heavy. It can contain everything that you keep on it. And this is to our advantage. Toleration, heaviness, to mention but a few. Whereas fire is characterized with rashness, lightness, swiftness, burning effect, and combustion, being able to burn everything it comes across. So the analogy of Iblis was wrong. Even going through that process of analyzing the importance of fire and the importance of soil was wrong, because under the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you don't question anything. Therefore, the excuse that the devil gave for not prostrating to Adam as a token of respect was graver than the sin itself. You know, in Arabic, they say when, for example, you committed a sin and you give a justification to your sin which does not hold water, they say al-udhru aqbahu min al-dhanb. So the justification that you give is worse and graver than the sin itself. So the justification of the devil was graver than the sin itself. So it should be understood that the devil was among the jinn. Due to his obedience and piety at the beginning, he was elevated to the rank of the level, or to the level and rank of the angels. However, he was demoted after blatantly disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ اسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ فَسَجَدُوا إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ كَانَ مِنَ الْجِنِّ فَفَسَقَ عَنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّهِ أفتتخذونه وذريته أولياء من دوني وهم لكم عدو بئس للظالمين بدلا. And behold, when we said to the angels, prostrate to Adam, and they prostrated, except Iblis, he was one of the jinn and disobeyed the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then will you take him and his descendants as allies other than Allah, other than me, while they are enemies to you? How woeful a substitute is this for the wrongdoer. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is warning you that Iblis is your enemy, and actually if you analyze everything that he insists that you do, it's detrimental to you, to your health on this earth, detrimental to you even in the hereafter. So Iblis, out of arrogance, pride, obstinacy, among others, decided intentionally and blatantly to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As we said before, he will say to his followers, what Allah promised you was true. So he knows that what Allah promised was true, but blatantly, arrogantly, he decided to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he was betrayed by his pride in the substance from which he was created. So he thought fire would be better than fire was better than the soil. So Aisha tells us, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم خلقت الملائكة من نور وخلق الجان من مارج من نار وخلق آدم مما وصف لكم. Translated as, Aisha narrated that the Messenger of Allah said, angels were created from light, the jinn were created from a smokeless flame of fire, and Adam was created from that which you've been told, i.e., which means sounding clay, like the clay of pottery. Now here there is a very big question. Actually, a young boy asked me, he said, if Iblis was created from fire, and on the day of judgment, he will be burnt by fire. So how can fire burn fire? How can fire inflict harm on fire? Okay. What both of you said is correct. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala initially created us from soil. But are we soil now? Are we dripping of soil? So it was a phase. So we went through phases. Our forefather, our progenitor Adam, was created from soil, and then he was given soul. Then he became bone and flesh. So it was a procedure through which he went through. So we are not soil. So this could be the same that would happen to Iblis and the jinn. Initially, they were created from a smokeless flame of fire. Maybe they evolved like us from fire and something else. That's number one. Number two, the punishment in the hellfire, it's not only fire. It's either fire or bitter cold, severe frost. So extreme cold and extreme heat. And we have always been talking about this hadith that the fire, some parts of it, of the hellfire, were consuming some parts of it until it complained to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave it occasions to breathe. This is when we have summer and winter. So the Prophet ﷺ said, when it's extremely hot in summer, this is the hellfire breathing. When it's extremely cold in winter, this is the hellfire. So if he was created from fire, he will be punished by severe frost, bitter cold, extreme cold. Another one which that we have already said. So some parts of the hellfire were consuming others. So even the hellfire itself, if some parts of it are stronger than others and they are consuming one another, so who will be Iblis and the jinn? For example, I have this hammer made of what? Don't be afraid, I will not hit you. Made of what? Metal. And this one made of what? So if I continuously bang it, what will happen? Metal and metal will harm. It will destroy. It will crush it. Right? This is metal. This is metal. Now this brings me to a hadith. The Prophet ﷺ in a hadith that was narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ناركم هذه جزء من 70 جزءا من نار جهنم. So the fire that we have on this earth is only one part out of 70 parts of the fire of the hellfire. In other words, if we bring all the firewood, we do whatever we can, we kindle the strongest fire on earth, it will be just one part out of 70 parts of the hellfire. So Abu Sa'id says, the companions told the Prophet ﷺ that this would be enough, the fire that we have. The Prophet said, no. Even that one part among the 70 parts is stronger than the part on this earth. So the fire that we have now, it's only one part. I don't know to convert it into percentage. 1 out of 70, I don't know what percentage it would be. But 69 are still reserved for those who will go to the hellfire. So if Iblis and the jinn are created from just a smokeless flame of fire, of this 1%, or of this one part out of 70, what about the 69 parts? So for example, the percentage of this, I don't know what's the percentage of metal here and here. This is metal and this, they will crush one another. So it will be easy for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to crush the jinn and the devil. Another thing is, yes, let's say for argument's sake, we are created from soil. If some parts of soil enter your eyes, your ears and your nose, your eyes, ears, nose and mouth, won't they harm you? Yes. They will. So it's soil, still it will harm you even though you were created from soil. If for example, a brick which is very huge, which has been baked to maximum, left in an oven for some time, which this brick has been is brought to strike with a brick which is half baked, will it break it? Both of them are from mud. And also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the best. And also, even when we talk about the fire of the day of judgment and the fire that we have, the elements are different. The essence is different. So in one way or the other, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be able to punish the Iblis and the jinn, although they were created from fire. So actually, it's almost time. Maybe I'll end with this slide. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَبِمَا أَغْوَيْتَنِي لَأَقْعُدَنَّ لَهُمْ صِرَاطَكَ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about the devil. So when the devil had lost hope, when Allah told him that you are cursed, you are out of my mercy, and actually Allah, this is to expel you from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We all need the mercy of Allah. So when Iblis lost hope, and actually he was stupid, instead of repenting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he grew more obstinate. So he said, because you've put me in error, I will surely sit in wait for them on your straight path. So the shaitan is declaring that because Allah, you've made me an erroneous person, you've cursed me, your creatures, the son of Adam, I will lay in ambush for them. If they want to do something good, I will do my best to discourage them from doing it. So beware of someone who comes to discourage you from doing something good. You want to give charity, he says, don't give it. You want to pray, he says, no. This is an agent of the shaitan. So the shaitan arrogantly told Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that since you've kept me away from the right guidance, I will try my level best to tempt your servants and allure them to follow my footsteps. Therefore, happy are those who oppose the devil, and miserable are those who follow him. So the devil, the shaitan, was led astray due to his folly, stupidness, benightedness. Benightedness means to be in darkness. You don't have any intellectual or spiritual enlightenment. So you are in spiritual and intellectual darkness. That was how the devil was. Intransigence, stubbornness, and haughtiness plus arrogance. So actually I said I will end with that one. I'll now end with this. I'll just say the translation of the hadith. So Sabra ibn al-Faqih, one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, says, I heard the Messenger of Allah say, the devil sits in ambush on the paths of the son of Adam. He sits waiting for him in the path to Islam. So when someone, for example, wants to become a Muslim, the shaitan will try to dissuade him. He will tell him, you want to accept Islam? You want to live the religion of your fathers and your forefathers? However, the son of Adam will disobey the shaitan and become a Muslim. Then he sits in wait for him on the path of immigration, those who are immigrating from Mecca to Medina. He will say, you want to immigrate and live behind your land and your sky? If you become an immigrant in a strange land, you will be like a horse tethered to a peg. In other words, you don't have freedom. Now, if we ask ourselves, those who immigrated from Mecca to Medina, didn't they enjoy freedom in Medina? They did enjoy freedom, and actually the inhabitants of Medina were so generous to them. They shared each and everything. Some people went to the extent of sharing women. Someone would say, you're now my brother from Mecca. I have 2 wives. Choose whomsoever you want. I will divorce her. You marry her. I have a capital of 10,000 dirhams. I will give you 5,000 dirhams. So things that even they didn't get even in Mecca. So the shaitan here is threatening you that if you go there, you don't have freedom, you don't belong there, you're not from any of the tribes of there, they will be mistreating you. But when you disobey the shaitan and you follow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so you will find a lot of opportunities open up to you. So we have to learn lessons. So the shaitan was threatening the people, but when they went to Medina, their lifestyle was better even when they were in Mecca. So what do we learn from this? For example, you want to do something, you want to do a venture. I've had a lot of stories. I have a friend who wanted to establish a school, and some people will discourage him that, people here cannot afford to pay school fees. You'll be the loser. You cannot establish a school as one person. You need a lot of investors, a lot of people who will have shares. You need an organization to back you up. So everyone was discouraging him, everyone. But he had self-confidence. Now it's booming more than any other school. So those people who were discouraging him are coming to me, man, you were clever. So imagine if he had yielded to their advice and yet he did not succeed, they would turn against him and say, you are stupid. Why did you listen to us? This is how human beings are. So someone advises you, you followed the advice of this person, in the future it becomes detrimental to you. He will claim, you are stupid. Did I force you? Why did you follow my advice? And this happens a lot. So this is a lesson to us. Whatever the shaitan was threatening the companions of the Prophet ﷺ with, it was the opposite. For example, he was threatening them, if you pay charity, you will become poor. Abdurrahman bin Auf would spend everything in charity. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu would give everything and remain literally with nothing. But within few days, they would make business and thrive. Even get profits more than anyone else. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is proving to us here that what the shaitan is threatening you with is false. So don't fall into the traps of the shaitan. And also, then he was waiting for him, the son of Adam, on the path of jihad, saying, will you fight for the sake of Allah? Yet it will cost you your life and wealth, for you will fight and get killed. After that, your wife will remarry and your wealth will be distributed among your relatives. The son of Adam rather disobeys him and fights for the sake of Allah. And actually, when you fight for the sake of Allah, this is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses you more. And actually, there is a proverb, you shared a proverb with us. You said, a coward, Sister Nafisa, a coward, you said a coward dies a coward dies many times before his death. So if you yield to the shaitan, someone slaps you and say, "Give me the other. Let me give you the other cheek." Someone mistreats you, you just sit down. You don't fight for your rights. So you are yielding to the shaitan. But when you stand up to fight for your rights, you make one step, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make 10. So all this is proving to us that what the devil is threatening you with, it's actually futile. So moreover, whoever is killed, then if you die for the sake of Allah, then you are guaranteed paradise. So either way, you are the winner. If you don't get killed, you'll be held in high esteem. Because of jihad, this is why we have freedom to talk about Islam. How many times was the Prophet ﷺ persecuted and companions? So they had to fight. No one fought for them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they took the first step, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helped them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, if you are only 20 patient people fighting sincerely for the sake of Allah, تَغْلِبُ مِئَتَيْن, you'll vanquish 200. If you are 300, you'll vanquish 2,000. Allah will always be with you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala furthermore says, if this person is fighting for the sake of Allah and he's thrown by his camel or any other riding animal for that matter, and it causes his neck to break, then this person is promised paradise. So either way, you are the winner. But look around, people who decided to fight for their rights, they were successful, and people who were coward, they were even oppressed more, to the extent that they themselves committed suicide because they were yielding to the shaitan. So with this, I come to the end of our presentation tonight. And actually, I was willing to talk about the women, that hadith, maybe some other time. It's very interesting because it will give you assurance that everything Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, everything the Prophet ﷺ says, is being discovered scientifically. And we will continue to discover things until the day of judgment. This is a promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُ الْحَقِّ. So we will continuously show them our signs, our miracles, our lessons, our warnings in themselves, within you, and in the horizons, until finally they come to a conclusion that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one worthy to be worshipped. So these are something interesting. And what's interesting more is that all these discoveries are discovered by non-Muslims. So we don't say, a Muslim was biased, he read an ayah or hadith, and then he did a research. Non-Muslims confirming what we already have in the Quran. So inshallah, next time we'll be talking about this. So Jazakumullah khair. See you inshallah on Monday in the tafsir class. And next week inshallah we'll be mostly talking about women, about some misconceptions concerning women. Jazakumullah khair.